The people who feel threatened by you will never say it out loud, but they will show it in ways that are quiet, specific, and once you know what to look for, impossible to miss. And here is what most people never realize. Being threatened to someone has nothing to do with anything you did wrong. It simply means you have something they wish they had. And by the end of this video, you are going to recognize exactly what that behavior looks like in the people around you. Let's get into it. The first sign, they suddenly become competitive with you. It starts subtly. Something that was never a contest quietly becomes one. A conversation turns into a comparison. A moment that should have been simple becomes charged with something unspoken. And the strange part is that the competition only seems to exist on their side. You were not racing anyone, but somewhere along the way, they decided you were racing them. It does not have to be about achievement either. It can be about how you carry yourself, how people respond to you, how comfortable you seem in your own skin. Any of those things can be enough to trigger it. The most telling detail is not the competition itself, it is what triggers it. It appears when you grow, when something shifts in your life, when you move forward in a way they were not expecting. That timing is not a coincidence. It is a reaction, and it doesn't always look like open competition either. Sometimes it looks like silence when someone else praises you, a subject change that comes just a second too quickly, a downplay that nobody else in the room would have thought to make. And what makes it even more revealing is that the people who genuinely want you to do well never make your growth feel like a threat to their own. The second sign, they undermine your credibility to others. This one never happens in front of you. It happens in the conversations you are not part of. A quiet comment here, a carefully placed doubt there. Nothing direct enough to confront, but enough to make the people around you slightly less certain about you before you even walk through the door. What makes this so difficult to catch is that it almost always sounds reasonable. They are not attacking you openly, they're just raising questions, sharing concerns, planting seeds of doubt in people who had no reason to question you before. It is not always about your abilities either. Sometimes it's about your character, your intentions, the kind of person they suggest you really are behind closed doors. And by the time you notice that something has shifted in how people respond to you, the groundwork has already been laid. That is exactly how it is designed to work. Not loudly, not obviously, just quietly and consistently until the damage is already done. The third sign, they become cold or distant without explanation. No argument, no confrontation, just a sudden coldness that wasn't there before. One day the dynamic between you feels normal, and the next, something has shifted. They're shorter with you, less available. The conversations that do happen feel careful now, measured in a way they never used to be. Like something unspoken is sitting in the middle of every interaction, and you're both pretending it's not there. The warmth that used to come naturally is now noticeably absent, and the most disorienting part is that nothing happened between you. No falling out, no difficult conversation, nothing you can point to and say, that is where it changed. That is what makes this sign so specific to feeling threatened. When someone genuinely has an issue with you, there's usually a reason you can trace back to something. But this kind of distance appears in response to something positive in your life, a change in how you carry yourself, a new confidence, a shift in how others around you respond to you. And instead of bringing them closer, it pushes them away. Because for someone who feels threatened by you, your growth is not something to celebrate. It's something to retreat from. The fourth sign, they suddenly need to be the center of attention around you. Walk into any room with someone who feels threatened by you and watch what happens. The energy shifts. Suddenly they are louder, more present, working harder than usual to be seen. Not because the room changed, but because you walked into it. And it is consistent enough that once you notice it, you cannot stop noticing it. It is not about the other people in the room. It is about you. Your presence alone creates an urgency in them that would not exist if you were not there. It does not matter whether you are talking about work or relationships or simply how you make people feel when you walk in. Whatever it is about you that draws people in is exactly what makes them need to redirect that attention back to themselves. The version of them that needs to perform only shows up when you do. That performance is not confidence, it is a response. And the most telling part is not how loud they get, it is how unnecessary it feels every single time. The fifth sign, they tried to point out your flaws. Not as feedback, not out of genuine care. The corrections come at the wrong moments. The criticism surfaces in front of the wrong people. A mistake that nobody else would have mentioned suddenly becomes worth addressing. And it is always specific enough to sting, but vague enough to brush off as just an observation.
Sometimes it does not even look like criticism. Sometimes it sounds like a casual comment designed to remind everyone in the room, including you, that you are not as put together as you appear. The timing always gives it away. It never comes when you are going through something difficult. It comes when you are steady, when you are confident, when others around you are responding to you well, because the goal was never to help you. The goal was to introduce just enough doubt to take the edge off your confidence before it grew any further. There is a significant difference between someone who points out your flaws because they want to see you do better and someone who does it because they can't stand watching you do well. One leaves you feeling motivated, the other leaves you feeling smaller than you did before they opened their mouth. The sixth sign, they try to exclude you from plans, from conversations, from spaces that used to include you without question. It never happens loudly. There is no announcement, just a quiet and consistent pattern of being left out that you start noticing over time. A gathering you heard about after the fact, a conversation that stopped the moment you walked in, a decision that was made without anyone thinking to include you. And every single time it happens, it's dressed up as an oversight, as something that just slipped through. But it never just slips through. And here's what makes this the most revealing sign of all. Exclusion requires effort. Choosing to leave someone out is an active decision, which means every time it happens, someone made a choice. They thought about it, and they decided that you being there was something they needed to prevent. That level of deliberate behavior does not come from indifference. It comes from someone who is very aware of the space you take up, the energy you bring, the way people respond to you when you are in the room. The people who are truly unbothered by you never feel the need to manage where you are allowed to be. Indifference does not organize itself. Only threat does. The people who feel threatened by you will rarely tell you. They'll just behave in small ways, in quiet patterns. Understanding what is actually driving certain people's behavior toward you changes everything. It takes the confusion out of interactions that used to leave you second-guessing yourself. It replaces the question of, what did I do wrong, with a much more accurate answer. You didn't do anything wrong. You simply became someone they were not prepared for. And that clarity, once you have it, is something nobody can take away from you.